So I have turned chickpeas into everything. We are at the stage where we're gonna be making a loaf of bread utilizing 1 can of chickpeas. Now, the bread isn't made entirely of chickpeas, so just follow along. Now, this is gonna be based on a recipe from allpurposeveggies.com. I've used some of her recipes before. They're fantastic. I'll leave a link in the description below to where you can find the full recipe. So we're just gonna start with 1 can of chickpeas. So I'm just gonna drain these, saving the aquafaba. We're gonna use that a little bit later. Toss the chickpeas into a bowl, and then I'm gonna throw them into the microwave for about 60 seconds. So while those are microwaving, we're gonna get our dry ingredients ready. I'm gonna use a scale, but we're gonna start with 4 cups of bread flour or 480 grams. Now I'm gonna do 3 tablespoons sugar. Now her recipe calls for instant yeast and all I have is active yeast. So I'm gonna grab a tablespoon of the sugar and flour right off the top here, this bowl of chickpeas, and I'm gonna add about 1 cup of warm water to that. And I'll be honest, this isn't a big enough bowl, so I'm just gonna switch this out to something. Just mix this up, looking like a little slurry. And then we'll add the active yeast. I bet you this yeast is gonna love these little chickpeas in here. I think that's gonna make these things kind of go crazy. I'm gonna set this aside for about 5 minutes. I think that's gonna be enough time. Now, the last thing I'm gonna put in the dry mixture is a big pinch of salt. Now, if you don't have a stand mixer, I would blend up the chickpeas first, make a hummus. If you do have a stand mixer, we're just gonna go right from here. This has gotten nice and foamy. It's smelling very yeasty. At this point, I'm gonna bring my stand mixer over, which has all my dry ingredients in it. I'm gonna give these dry ingredients just a quick little mix together. Now, I'm gonna pour in my yeasty chickpeas. So at this point, I'm just gonna mix this on a low speed for just a few minutes. And then once everything's combined, I'll flip it up and knead it for about 10 minutes. That's it. If you need to add more liquid, make sure you only add about a tablespoon at a time. And here you can actually use some of the aquafaba. Okay, so it started to come together. At this point, I'm just gonna flip this up to a higher kneading speed. And we're gonna let it go for about 8 minutes, like I said. Okay. After a few minutes, this should be pretty smooth. We have a nice dough ball. There's little remnants of chickpeas in there, but for the most part, the chickpeas are pretty much worked out. I'm just gonna get this into a nice, smooth ball, really like that. And that's a good looking, looks almost like a grain. So at this point, I'm just gonna oil up a bowl with just a little bit of olive oil, not much. Now I'm gonna stick this somewhere warm. It's gonna double in size. For me, that's right here in my air fryer. I've used it a few times today, so it's nice and toasty in there. We're gonna let that rise, double in size for about an hour and a half, which is plenty of time for today's sponsor. I don't know if you noticed, but I got some new frames and wow, I am loving these glasses by Warby Parker, today's sponsor. Warby Parker offers everything you need for happier eyes. Eyeglasses, sunglasses, contact lenses, and eye exams. And you could shop with them online and in stores. Plus, they're super affordable. Glasses start at $95, including prescription lenses, with anti-reflective, scratch-resistant coatings. Now, like a lot of people, I used to have a hard time finding frames that I like. I would spend hours trying on glasses before I finally just chose a pair that I was okay with. But Warby Parker designs every frame in-house, and their collections include silhouettes, colors, and fits made to suit every face, from neutral classics to bold, eye-catching options. And like I said, you can shop in-store at one of their over 250 retail locations in the US and Canada, where you can browse yourself or get help from one of their friendly expert advisors, which I love. They are always awesome. Or online, like what I did here. I tried Warby Parker's free home try-on program. Gang, you can order 5 pairs of glasses to try on at home for free. There's no obligation to buy. Shipping is free too, including a prepaid return shipping label. And if you don't know which frames to try, you could take their free home try-on quiz, and Warby Parker will make tailored frame recommendations based on your personal fit and style preferences. Honestly, they always nail it for me. Try 5 pairs of glasses at home for free via the QR code on screen or via the link in my description. Have vision benefits? When you're ready to buy, use your vision insurance or flexible spending account on prescription glasses, contacts, or eye exams. Warby Parker, thanks for sponsoring today's video and for always having the perfect frames. Okay, Bub, I need you. Come on. I need you. You can't be right here. Come on. Okay, so been a little over an hour. This thing has doubled in size. Looks phenomenal. Nice and bubbly. I just love this. It's gonna be perfect. So at this point, I'm just gonna dump this out onto my work surface here. It's not dumping out as much as I wanted it to. Thought I oiled it enough, but I guess I didn't. I mean, this is just gonna be, you could smell it. I love the smell, the yeasty smell. It smells so good. So I'm not gonna really do anything beyond this point. I'm gonna circle this up. Not gonna knead it at all. I don't wanna mess with it all that much. We're just gonna cut this in 4. Perfect. So at this point, all I'm gonna do is just square these up. We're gonna do 6x9 little rectangles. This part doesn't have to be perfect. It's not gonna be perfect. And then just roll it up like a little cinnamon roll. You can see how incredibly easy this is. You know, baking bread, I mean, it's most of the time when you're baking bread, it's waiting. It's the waiting game. So once we got these 4 little cinnamon rolls, I'm gonna grab my bread pan, toss a little bit of olive oil in here. Just make sure that there's enough to where it doesn't stick. And then we're just gonna place each one of these rolls into the bread pan, seam side down. Just gonna kind of press this in there to make sure they're fairly even. They're not super even. This one's a little bit bigger, but that's okay. It's okay. It's an appearance thing. So at this point, I'm gonna toss this back into my air fryer, or you can cover it up and throw it somewhere nice and warm. Let this rise for about an hour. Okay, so this is proofed. It looks really good. I'm gonna pull it out of the air fryer. You can preheat your oven or your air fryer for 350 degrees. While I'm waiting for that to heat up, I'm gonna make a little base to brush the top just so it browns really nice. All that's gonna be is a tablespoon of the aquafaba or water, whatever you wanna use, and a tablespoon of maple syrup. We're just gonna brush the top. The oven's preheated. We're gonna drop that in, bake it for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, I'm just gonna take it out, drop it, which is actually gonna flatten it a little bit. That's okay. Just gonna cover it up, toss it back into the oven for 350 degrees, and now this looks perfect. I mean, this is a perfect loaf of bread. High protein, high fiber, with a little bit lower carbs, bread. Now I let this cool down, but I mean, this is an awesome loaf of bread. Look at this. Give this some slices, because I'm gonna be making a sandwich, one of my favorite sandwiches. First, I'm just gonna slice off the heel, because who wants the heel as their sandwich? Not me. Try to keep it even. Gonna do it kind of thin. Definitely didn't keep it even, but that's okay. Even enough. So I'm gonna toss these into the toaster, give them a little toast. While they're toasting, I'm gonna make a garlic aioli with the leftover aquafaba. There's not gonna be any measurements because it's all gonna be based on feeling of it, I guess, like the texture. I'm gonna make this super garlicky. 3 cloves of garlic. These are large cloves. Garlic is an emulsifier, so that kind of helps bring this all together. Now for flavor, I am gonna use just the tiniest little touch, probably less than a teaspoon of Dijon mustard. Probably a teaspoon, actually. I'm gonna add a pinch of salt and a few cracks of black pepper. Now, at this point, I'm gonna use an immersion blender. Okay, once the aquafaba is nice and thick, we're gonna grab our olive oil and then just start drizzling in until eventually you got a garlic aioli. Now, before wrapping this up, I am gonna give this aioli just a little squeeze of lemon juice and another pinch of salt. Got my toast. So I know I said this is my favorite sandwich and it might be kind of silly, but it's something I grew up with. Toast and tomato. Just gonna take a beef steak, cut it fairly thick, pretty dang thick. Now, you need to use the aioli on both sides. That's gonna be the trick. Aioli will stay good in the fridge for a couple weeks, honestly. Big pinch of salt. I mean, I am so stoked about this bread. I just love making bread now. This comes out so good. It's so easy. I still get bread from the grocery store from time to time, but honestly, not nearly as much as I used to. It's so much better to just make it at home. This whole sandwich came out amazing. Just amazing.